the good thing is we've progressed in the Europa League. The bad thing is the battle of who's worse, Manchester United or Tottenham Hotspur this weekend, ended up with Man United leapfrogging us.
I feel like he just finds Maddison a little bit of a bad egg.
His inability to find how to use Maddison, I think, is one of the biggest problems that we have.
On Newcastle, Tottenham wouldn't be able to do that either.
No.
Obviously, we had Ange come in, he kind of brought the fans together, but now it's doing the absolute polar opposite.
What does he think he's going to do with the fans by arguing with Sonny? As much as I love him, he's got all the credit in the bank with me. He's an ambassador. I want him at the front door, waving people in. Hello, guys. We've got Beyonce here. The F1's here as well. There's no trophies.
You say about the youngsters and that. It gives me Gareth Southgate vibes at England. Maybe Eric Ten Hag. That's my hot take. But he can win a trophy and then you could just ditch him in the summer. The fact that he still texts Daniel Levy and they're in contact.
Oh, yeah, a red
I think
flag.
Poch would only work if we had new owners.
You know, like when you're like in an interrogation room or something and you're just like, just let me go.
Yeah.
Please, can I go? It's literally, it's Ian Bill, I've got nothing left vibes at the moment. Hello and welcome to Inside Spurs, talkSPORT's dedicated show to all things Tottenham Hotspur. And I'm your host, Majestic, looking after things while Abby's on holiday. And joining me, welcome back, Sonny Snelling from the Sonny Talks Spurs. And a big welcome to Hollie Agombar from Hollie's Hotspurs. How are we doing, guys?
Really good. I mean, well, it was good and then it went bad, didn't it? So maybe not as good as I was first hoping.
I know.
Same sort of vibe, yeah. All right, but Spurs not.
No wonder Abby's gone on holiday. But I have to pull Abby because she's gone on holiday. She looks fantastic. She's been working out in the gym, working hard. She's gone and ruined it by wearing a red dress.
Disgrace.
She's the host of the Inside Spurs podcast. That's 2 weeks' wages for me.
I don't know. You just can't wear red. North London is not red. It is always lily
I literally
white.
have a lyric in a song. It says COYS, Minar wear red. It's there. That's how diehard we are. Lots to talk about, of course, as you said, at the back of the Europa League. We have the good thing is we've progressed in the Europa League. The bad thing is the battle of who's worse, Manchester United or Tottenham Hotspur this weekend, ended up with Man United leapfrogging us in the table to 13th. We're now 14th in the Premier League and 15 losses in the Premier League.
It's just becoming silly. It feels like when I started supporting Spurs and we were, like the one day Ramos days, and it just is like a flash in the pan, isn't it? And, you go off the high of that Europa League game, a lot of fight, really good squad, and we looked a bit shaky in some of it, but I think you go into the Fulham game, lots of changes, you're not going to get as much harmony. I know a lot of people have called for Ange to make changes to rotate, but he's really picking and choosing the wrong times to do that.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to get any consistency, any momentum going into that Eintracht Frankfurt game if you're heading to Fulham, who are a very good team, and we'll talk about their manager in a bit as well, but it's not good. It's going to really be bad for the players in the long term.
Hollie, another loss before an international break. As Sonny mentioned, all those changes. I thought, Thursday night seeing Maddison in the midfield, he was dynamic. The goals came through him. To see him dropped again was disappointing for me.
It was the biggest kind of baffling moment for me because I saw the lineup and I was like, oh, okay, we've had a lot of changes, fine, cool, bit of fresh legs. But to see that midfield and have no creativity in there, I'm thinking, hang on a minute, mate. We've got to do something here. And having no Maddison, no Bergvall. I know Bergvall was obviously, he was holding his hamstring towards the end of the Frankfurt game. So it was kind of a bit like, yeah, fair enough, all right. But I was certain Maddison was going to start. I feel like he just finds Maddison a little bit of a bad egg, Ange, because, again, there was no reason not to start him, I don't think.
Yeah, no rhyme or reason, especially after his performance in the week. The first half was so drab. I think we had 3 touches in the opposition box. Now, this is what my problem is at the moment. It was always the whole Ange ball philosophy, and we're all waiting for that. He's had his players back now for at least 3 games. 45 minutes of football away from home, 3 touches in the opposition half.
I just think what annoys me is, I think since Pochettino's days, we haven't been able to stitch 2 45 minutes together. We either start well or we end well. It's never a whole game where I sit there and go, that was fantastic, that was a good display. And then what we moaned about under Conte and Jose was, this is dire football. We were sometimes getting results, but then the results dried up. It's now happening for Ange. At the beginning of the season, you'd watch games like Leicester, Newcastle. We might lose, we might draw, but we still, we had our chances. Yeah. You can see it's there. It's gone. It's not there at all. And I think what summed it up was the second goal, the Ryan Sessegnon goal, which was scored, fun enough, at the hammy end. So, he's dodgy with his hamstrings and has problems with hamstrings as well. But Ange is literally putting his hand up for offside and not really berating the back line, who Jed Spence had a bit of a mare, Ben Davies had a bit of a mare.
Davies had more than a mare. He got wrestled by his former colleague.
It's all gone to pot, and I just don't think now Like, I was pretty much Ange out from the Everton game. I still want it to work, but I just can't see.
But why? Why do you want it to work? For what reason?
To prove Daniel Levy wrong, I think. Like, to show that we can go and build this project, but that's the problem. It will always be Daniel Levy is the problem, but I still don't think Ange Postecoglou is the solution in the long term, because, you know, we've chucked a lot of money at him. We've given him players which we didn't give to Conte and Mourinho. And now you just look at the results and the performances against sides where you'd hope Tottenham would turn up. With that squad and that team as well, it should not be 14th, like, without a shadow of a doubt. But you just know now, we're just waiting to the end of the season for that curtain to fall, because we're not going to win the Europa League either, I don't think. Former
players coming back to haunt us again, as we mentioned, Sonny there with the Sessignon, on the same day that Kieran Trippier became the 65th player to leave Spurs since the last time we won a trophy to win some major honours. It just gets to the point of the frustration is just coming to boiling point.
It really is. I think I know we're a curse at times, but to see, like you say, Trippier win another trophy, the way that we kind of, going back to the point of starting games, I don't know, and with Ange, I don't know whether, like you say, what is he actually saying to those players? Because there's no mentality. And like we've kind of alluded to, the only thing we can win this season is Europa. And great, we're through to the next round. But if we carry on playing and starting games we do the way we have been under Ange, we're not going to win that trophy.
Winless in 3 Premier League games. Any other manager by now would have got the boot. I don't understand.
Tottenham as well. Jose Mourinho got sacked for less, didn't he?
Before a final.
Exactly.
A guy that can win trophies on the day, he knows how to win it, he gets sacked. What is the hold Ange Postecoglou has at the moment over Spurs? The fact that no one's out there? Or what is it? Can
I just say, first of all, on Newcastle, Tottenham wouldn't be able to do that either. No. We would not turn up to that Wembley final as the underdogs with that 70-year drought that they've had.
They won it before the whistle was blown.
Exactly.
They really won it by
It was just pure fight. And the thing is, and I've said this a couple of weeks ago on one of the shows, Daniel Levy has kept Ange on for the cups because the league was pretty much done, but there was a week where we were still in the Europa League, the FA Cup and the League Cup. But we were embarrassing in those and we didn't show any fight, any grit, any determination. And that could have cost him his job. But the Europa League, even though I think in the league stage of the Europa League, we weren't at all convincing against sides like AZ, Ferencvaros, and
all the big names,
Galatasaray,
all the big ones.
So I really am confused as to what has happened. And then you play the AZ game in the knockout stage, the first day we were shocking in that. And then AZ Alkmaar, there were stages when they scored that goal where I thought they're going to come back into this. I've seen this script a million times at Tottenham.
I saw it with Roma at the end of the Roma game.
Exactly. So I just don't know whether, and this is my theory as well. Like everyone's saying, but look at the injuries. He's had so many injuries. First of all, loads of teams have had injuries. Look at Arsenal, for example, as well. But in my opinion, Ange has caused these injuries. I think there was a stat saying that 40% of the Premier League's hamstring injuries were at Tottenham. So there's
says something, doesn't it?
So every player's got injured. You've had Kulusevski's been running to the ground. Kevin Danzo's just signed and got an injury. Dominic Solanke was never injured at Bournemouth. He's been injured this season. It's just becoming ridiculous. And there's not many times where you can. This style of football does not work in the Premier League. He can't adapt. He can't change his philosophy based on opponents, and that's what a lot of top managers across Europe and also in the Premier League do. They face each opponent. So when they play Man City, they play them different to how they play Southampton.
Absolutely.
Ange plays the same way every week. And yeah, we had that opening 10 games last season, and we've had a few spells this season, like City 4-0, but that's not good enough if you're not consistent. You've got to be doing it week in, week out.
But you mentioned those 10 games at the opening of last season. I always throw one name at people, right? Perisic. People forget about what the quality Perisic had.
That's good,
Still in the Champions League until the other week with PSV, scoring goals in the Champions League. And if you rewatch those games, he came on and changed the games because he had that little bit of magic in him because he was a world-class player.
Yeah.
For some reason, as we mentioned, his inability to find how to use Maddison, I think, is one of the biggest problems that we have. Because when Maddison is on, as I go back to that game on Thursday, we saw Ange ball for one moment, and it started at the back, and it came through. Maddison dipped his shoulder, and we was gone. At the moment, how is Maddison supposed to play through those lines when you're coming up against 2 low blocks all the time? Fulham did it so well, but they were so able to just break on us, and their press was brilliant as well. The way they just won the ball back straight, and they were gone. Ange has no answer to this when people set up like that.
No, they really don't. And I think that's the thing. I think we've seen it far too many times this season. Like I said, it's the same way we play every single week. And it's getting to a point now where
It's getting to a point where the players are saying it when they come off. And they're being seen on screen talking about
doing
it.
the old...
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing at Spurs at the moment. Obviously, we had Ange come in, he kind of brought the fans together, but now it's doing the absolute polar opposite because it's the same thing week in, week out. And like I said, the players are thinking the same thing. The only thing I can think that he's still at this club is purely because if he goes and Levy has to sack him, it's another failure. And that does not look good on his head. And we've been here before, like we said, where Jose was sacked 4 days before a final. Maybe in his head of his, he's thinking, if I sack him again, that's it. The fans are on my back. But if I give it a bit of time, he doesn't win the Europa League, then sack him, my head's kind of a little bit freer than what it would be if I sack him right now.
Have our third wild goose chase again. Do you remember that summer where we were looking at Gattuso and Fonseca? And
Fonseca, yeah.
We got all those names going to pop up again probably. And it's just... I think Levy is running out of ideas because he went from one extreme to the next, hasn't he? He's
did.
gone all for the defensive and the winners. He's now gone for a project that he doesn't really want to back. He's played all his cards. That's what it is.
Absolutely. And, you know, the frustration is really showing to the point of confrontation with the manager and fans. Yet again, this isn't an individual instance. He's come back out. First and foremost, I like the fact he went over to the fans and in a discussion with them. He said, well, look, we need you. But this is a guy that supposedly didn't want to come to us. We had to beg him. So I can't really trust too much in what he's saying. But to see Ange out there, he was asked a question. Okay, it was kind of rudely put to him with some curse words. But no one was personal to him or attacked him or anything other than, what was that? If we do a really bad podcast today, I expect people to go, guys, what was that? You know,
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not. I'm sure there'll be some comments, but you know, he has to be accountable. You're the manager. Why am I seeing yet another defeat in the Premier League before an international break after all these ridiculous changes? Like, what does he think he's going to do with the fans by arguing with them?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing as well, the fact that the way he's doing it, you're a manager of this club. If you hear noises like that and comments coming from the crowd, just walk away.
Don't bite.
Just leave it. And I think the biggest thing for me was seeing Tell, a player that's only just come to the club, like you said, and it's not a senior part of this senior role at the club, and he's gone into the crowd to go and have a chat. Now, don't get me wrong, we don't necessarily know what was said. I know he said he wants to be all together, but why am I not seeing the likes of Sonny? Or why am I not seeing the likes...
They all walked off, though, didn't they? They all walked off at that stage.
Because who are the leaders in this
any.
team? Because Sonny, as much as I love him, he's got all the credit in the bank with me because of who he is and what he's done for us. He's an ambassador. I want him at the front door, waving people in. Hello, guys. We've got Beyonce here. The F1's here as well. There's no trophies, but you can come and have a good time in the F1. That's what he is. Who's the leader? And that's what I'm saying. This manager is unable to do that and find that in this team.
I think Tell's a loan fee. I think he's been signed as a player liaison officer instead of a striker. But I think what's happened with Ange is we've seen he was the media darling for a little while, and everyone was like, "Oh, isn't he a breath of fresh air? You know, it's who we are, mate," and you know all that sort of rhetoric. And now it's like he's rude.
Quickly.
He's looking at the floor all the time in his interviews. He's not got any answers. It's excuses, and you know. In modern football, the manager is basically the press officer. He's the face of the football club, and if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen because He's this close to going full Conte and Mourinho and calling out Levy. I think he's just a bit more of a puppet than he is compared to those managers. So it's not a strong look because I think the fan was a Fulham fan, but that's still the point stands. You had to go at Tottenham fans right behind you in the dugout. You've had to go at a Fulham fan near the tunnel. Just don't buy it. Just don't buy it. And you've got to soak it up and realise you're 14th in the Premier League. You're going to get people throwing stones at you.
So, Hollie, are you Ange in or out?
That's a very good question. To be honest with you, right now, I would say I'm Ange in purely because we have that Europa League. And call me silly, but I just think I've sat here before when we've had Jose and we sacked him 4 days before a final. I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah, but we got sacked before a final against Manchester City, the Manchester City of the time, which was very different. So it's like the likelihood of him beating them. When we had Ryan Mason, who didn't start Gareth Bale in a final, which was absolutely mad. My question is, why should I trust him to take us through those next games of the Europa League? What has he done to prove that to me? I was at Anfield when we got battered 4-0. I saw no handball. I saw us trying to defend a 1-0 lead at Anfield. So why should I trust this guy?
I think the only thing for me is right now, if we sack him right now, we've got, 17 days now till that kind of next game in the Europa League. I do not want to see Ryan Mason at the helm. I can't do that.
I agree with
He's
that.
got to go.
I agree with that.
And I feel like that'll be the first point of call, and I just can't be dealing with that. The only thing I can kind of hold, there's not many straws left, don't get me wrong. I am closer to seeing Ange out. The only thing that's kind of gripping me in is the fact that he's managed to get a tune out of these young players, and I feel like they're the only ones that are necessarily playing for him.
But my counter argument to that is they're young, talented kids.
They've already got the talent.
And they've got the talent. Now, Jed Spence, who arguably has been our best player in the last few months, has been in the wilderness at Tottenham Hotspur due to being misunderstood. People thinking, the attitude, etc. That's, again, man management. And with the inability to man-manage teams, you will not get the best out of Mavericks. I always throw it back to Terry Venables and Gascoigne. Now, Terry Venables knew Paul Gascoigne would turn up to the training ground with a pellet gun and an ostrich. But he'd go on and play.
Yeah, on your day, yeah.
And seems to be so rigid in his style, his stubbornness, the way he wants to play. I don't think him and a Maddison can never work together.
Yeah, it's just, I think at the moment it's more problems than solutions. I mean, you say about the youngsters and that. It gives me Gareth Southgate vibes at England. It's sort of like you've got this crop of talent in front of you, but it's like wrong place, wrong time for this manager yet again. And people were saying, Ange will leave and he'll go and go to another club and it'll be successful.
Yeah, I'm
but
sure
then
he will be.
that's on Daniel Levy then again, because we've seen it with Conte at Napoli and Jose at Fenerbahce. But I just think it goes to show that...
Well, they weren't that successful against Rangers.
That is true. I just think, to me, I mean, if you're going to go down that route of sacking, bring in a manager who can win that as in an interim, like Chelsea would always bring in Gus Hiddink.
Yeah.
Maybe Eric Ten Hag. That's my hot take. But he can win a trophy, and then you could just ditch him in the summer. Then you bring in another project manager because. Ange has not got this is not the football to win knockout tournaments either. You've got to sometimes, soak up pressure in the opening 20. Then, get yourself back into the game. Not just always on the back foot, because at the moment, it's not going to win knockout games. It's not going to win games in the Premier League. I don't know where it fits, because it's not, it might work in other leagues. Because, I mean, you answered the question there. I was Ange out probably from the Everton game. Yeah. Because, don't get me wrong, David Moyes came in, really good manager bounce. It was fantastic for them. But that team is still better than Everton on paper. And to be 3-0 down at half-time away at Goodison, where we've had some good success over the years,
absolutely,
it's not good enough. It's just, you go into games now thinking you're going to lose because we can't, as you said, Madge, can't break down low blocks. We can't, compete against the biggest teams, your Liverpools, conceding 6 at home. It's harrowing. It's really harrowing.
Brings us on to our next point, which is about the possible next manager. Crookie spoke yesterday and said sources have told talkSPORT that the Bournemouth manager, Iriola, is Daniel Levy's top target. And then, of course, there's look at Thomas Frank from Brentford, as well as Marco Silva from Fulham. For you guys, who would be, out of those three, the pick for you?
Do you want to go first?
I was going to say, it'll probably be just rinse and repeat again. It's
exact words I've used before. Rinse and repeat.
It's literally just going to be a same sort of kind of manager coming in, not necessarily giving them the tools he wants, and then we'll be back here talking about it in 12 months' time. I just feel like it's going to be the same thing again.
I just think with these managers who've been listed, they've got to be backed. They've got to be supported, because everyone's saying, why would these three managers want to leave their clubs? Because there's the potential of European football. But don't get me wrong, and no offence to these three clubs, Tottenham are a bigger club. And we, funnily enough, do pay up for managers. Some of the fees we've given managers, and they're all probably still on gardening leave, is astronomical. The problem is when a Marco Silva, a Thomas Frank, or an Andoni Iriola lose a game, not many people say anything, because it's Bournemouth, it's Fulham, it's Brentford. But when you lose at Tottenham, the spotlight is on you, and it's not as big as a Man United or an Arsenal or a Chelsea, but you're in that big six. I mean, we're still somehow in that big six, but that's where I think, which one of these managers would, one, be able to survive under Daniel Levy, two, be able to work with the resources we've got and get a tune. Because at the moment, and this is another criticism of Ange, I don't think Ange has improved any players since being at the club. You could argue Kulusevski, but I think he just changed his position. We all knew, he's even said on record that he's not a winger, he's a midfielder. So I don't count him. And then apart from that, they're all potential. Archie Gray's looked good, but he's a potential player. these managers have improved all the talent that they've already had at the club. Iriola's turned like some of those players at Bournemouth, like Cliver looks like his dad.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think which one will work, because I saw someone say Iriola's the Spanish Ange, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I think he's got more credit in the bank than Ange Postecoglou. Thomas Frank, I think what we need to do is strip this team back again and go, what made previous Spurs teams good? Now, Daniel Levy says about this Tottenham way, or this Tottenham way. I don't even know what that is anymore. But we like seeing attacking football, but not attacking football that you've got no defence. So I think what we need to do is we need to start by building that defence again. Not necessarily with players, but like a better style where it's more defensive first. Not in the sense of Jose or Conte, where you're just silly defensive football and, it didn't even work. We were conceding 60 goals a season. But if that manager exists, then it is probably Thomas Frank. He has made such a good unit of that Brentford team. They're good defensive. They're good on set pieces. You watch those documentaries that he's done with Sky where they've gone into the club. Each opposition, he goes, right, this is how we're going to play against City. This is how we're going to play against Southampton. The problem with Iriola, and I really like him, we haven't seen it with Frank, but his style is similar to Ange in a way. Like, it is quite like end-to-end pressing.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of injuries, and also we've not really seen possibly what Bournemouth could do with that style of play with extra games if we get into Europe and Cup games. So that is my one worry. Marco Silva, I think he's found his level. Now, that's not a disrespect, because I think Nuno's found his level. I don't think Nuno was going to work at Spurs, but Forest is his like Wolves 2.0 team.
Who look like they're going to get a Champions League spot.
I know that is true, but I don't think he had Harry Kane at Spurs. Whereas I think Marco Silva, we've seen every time he's gone up a little bit, Everton, it was a bit sticky. Hollie was good. Watford was a mixed bag. I think Fulham should keep him because that's the perfect fit for him.
I'm with you on that, and sometimes, and it's proven. Look at David Moyes, right? Everton suits him. That's the team that suits him. Like, he goes back there, the Messiah. It works. You look at that, as I said. I think even Thomas Frank. You look at that. At Brentford, he's the manager. He's involved in the transfers. He's involved in everything. Like, to come and work for Daniel Levy will be such a different proposition for him. Listen, I've got the game plan. I said it on air the other week.
You're not going to say Poch, are you?
On the talkSPORT, on the final word with Alan Pardew. Poch has been obviously flirting a lot the last couple of weeks, hasn't he? With the when I left there, I was empty. I always want to go back. Even though I'm the US manager, yes, I want to go back.
And they got a World Cup.
I know.
On home soil.
It's crazy. I'm saying again, I don't trust Ange for the Europa League. These players need energising. They're going to come back from being with their countries, feeling energised, feeling great. Especially the likes of Romero, loves being in with Argentina. Get Harry Redknapp in, right? I'm saying that. Listen, I'm telling you now. They propositioned to Harry. Get him in just because he's such a man manager.
He's got a new job. North and South team.
Go on, lads. Go out and play. Just go and let these boys go and play. Go and win the Europa League with Harry Redknapp, and then 1 year contract, just a season while we wait for Poch. Because all the other options are exhausted.
I'm not sure.
I don't know if I want him back.
Why would you not want Poch back? For what reasons?
I was told from a very young age, don't go back to an ex. But I just think, the way it ended for Pochettino as well was, obviously we had that amazing Champions League run, but the Premier League form did fall off a cliff.
Which was in line with Dele Alli, Hugo Lloris, the fact that we sold Moussa Dembele.
I think Daniel Levy's still at fault for the way that side collapsed. We didn't spend for a calendar year. But, I'm surprised Poch got sacked by Chelsea. I think he's better than Maresca. But I'm not sure if he's going to be able to come back. And the fact that he said on Sky that he still texts Daniel Levy and they're in contact.
Oh, yeah, a red
I think
flag.
Poch would only work if we had new owners. I think it'd have to be a fresh new start because, we see with Newcastle, they've just, that city's been reborn with the new ownership.
But
we need that sort of freshness.
But that's not going to happen. This is the biggest problem.
He's getting more powerful, if anything.
Yeah, and with all the amazing events that's happening there, you make Ben, I'm DJing at that.
I was going to say, you are, yeah.
So get one joy at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. All of this stuff happening from a business perspective. Why on earth would they want to get rid of him?
Yeah, I do get that. I think as well, the thing that's always baffled me with Daniel Levy is the fact that if you win things, you're going to be a more prosperous club.
Exactly.
You're going to look better. So why has that not been his first kind of port of call? It's always everything else that's on the sides of football. But if you're winning things, you're going to generate more money.
But his argument is, we did spend money on certain players, Ndombele, etc., Lo Celso. Money has been spent on players.
But it's poor recruitment.
Very poor recruitment. And then even this term round, they're not signings that say, oh, we want to go and get the top 4 this year, but there's, the best prospects in Europe, even to the fact of, Lucas Bergvall's been fantastic this season. He's going to come on leaps and bounds. The club, the way they bought Jed Spence, who's now coming into fruition. There has been money spent, but it's not an instant success story. And, and when you look at that, and the way, I hate to mention them, but seeing how Abby wore red in her picture earlier on, the way that Arsenal spent, and even though they haven't been successful in terms of winning things, they went and bought Declan Rice, who was the best midfielder in the country at that time. Even buying off of Manchester City, the way that Arsenal did, their intentions are a lot greater than ours.
But is that's Daniel Levy's fault? Because he sort of cut off all ties. Like we used to buy from West Ham.
Yeah.
We used to trade with all these. We don't even sell to those clubs anymore because they're like, we're not touching Daniel Levy with a barge pole. So the problem is we're shopping in a very small market where we. And the thing is with the Premier League now is everyone's looking down to these middle order teams, your Brightons, your Brentfords, because the way they're run as a club, it is within their means, but they're run really efficiently, as in like their finances and their recruitment and their scouting. So it's just really telling that. What was it in the Amazon documentary? Didn't one of the scouts say he hates his job? So like. When it does, it's a big trickle down effect because even the squad has had a little bit of a turnover, but there's still that energy around the football club of like.
Have we got a good squad?
That's Daniel Levy. Yeah, I think we've got a good squad.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I think there's talent there, so it needs somebody to come in and develop that talent.
Yeah,
we saw Pochettino develop players when he was there, like Danny Rose. He became a world beater under Pochettino. Yeah. Before that, he was obviously scored that amazing goal under Harry against Arsenal and all that. Kyle Walker came on leaps and bounds under him. He was never the Kyle Walker that we knew now, first time around at Spurs, in the early days. So we know that Poch can develop players. And he knows how to work under the constraints of Daniel Levy.
I guess, but then if you want that, I think Iriola gives me Pochettino vibes. I don't know if it's because he's on the South Coast as well, but it's sort of that, young, vibrant manager who has improved talent, in that rich pool of the South Coast as well. So I feel like it's you want to move forward a little bit. I think for me, it is between either Iriola or Frank because I think they could, really improve some of this young talent. I think that is really good and probably attract some talent as well, like who want to play under that coach. Because even I'm surprised when he was I think he was at Rayo Vallecano, Iriola. I'm surprised no one picked him up then. The fact that people, and I remember the Bill Foley, the owner, did an interview with Jim White. And after they sacked Gary O'Neill and brought him in, and they lost their first 10 last season. While we were winning our first 10, they were losing their first 10. And everyone was like, why did they get rid of Gary O'Neill? Gary O'Neill's been sacked again, and Iriola looks like... The thing is with Iriola, he could easily turn us down and wait for a Madrid or someone like that. I could see him really being... He's the next super coach.
But that's my worry, Hollie. Those managers are looking... If they've done that to Conte, Jose Mourinho, the guy that's come from Scotland, Big Ange, who, he's won loads of stuff... It's not going to be a good look on their CV. At the moment, our club feels like a bit of a poisonous chalice.
Oh, definitely, 100%. And that's the thing. It's like it's not so much who can we go get. It's actually who wants to come at the end of the day. And
it's a sad state of affairs after everything that is around the club.
It's like the England job, isn't it? That was a poison chalice for many years. It's just so toxic. And I think as much as obviously I'm one for not wanting Poch back purely because A, I think it's too soon, and B, I think it's just too toxic. Imagine what it was like during his time, just as he was about to leave. Exactly. He wrote on the whiteboard.
Exactly. It was toxic when he left. To come back into another toxic environment, nothing's changing while we've got this man. And to be honest with you, like you said, nothing's going to change while the big heads are still here in the likes of Daniel Levy and stuff. And I just don't want it to tarnish.
I just feel like we need the fan base, for one, and the players need energising. I'm so unenergetic about my football team right now. And it was funny, I was speaking to Anthony, who I do my Same Old Spurs podcast with earlier on today, and he's like, like when you're like in an interrogation room or something and you're just like, just let me go.
Yeah.
Please, can I go? Oh yeah. It's Ian Bill, I've got nothing left vibes at the moment, because that's what, and it is pathetic. And like before you'd kind of have the argument with people. The reason why I harp on about Pochettino is because regardless of winning things or not, that year unbeaten at White Hart Lane, it was a joy to watch our football team, and I've lost all joy in going to Spurs at the moment.
It's just really deflating. I just don't know where, as you say, I don't know where we go.
What game have you enjoyed this season at home?
I went to Ipswich and Leicester. They were and Liverpool semi-final. So one was good, but then we lost it, and then two of the worst losses I've seen. I don't think I've enjoyed a game. Now when the results end, I mean, I do my content, so I'm focused on that. But I'm literally like over it within like an hour because I'm like, I've mourned already. Well, it's the stages of grief, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm already at the final hurdle. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what we do.
Well, we have one thing to look forward to, as you mentioned, Hollie, is the Europa League. Alex Crook also spoke to Harry Redknapp yesterday at the North versus South Legends game, and here's what he had to say.
Let's talk quickly about another of your old clubs, Tottenham. Ange Postecoglou, I think, under fresh pressure. 15 Premier League defeats after they lost at Fulham at the weekend. Do you think he almost has to win the Europa League to ease that pressure, because it's a really low position for Spurs to find themselves in?
Yeah, I suppose he does, really, to be perfectly truthful. I mean, I was, when he got the job at the start of the year, last year, I was pulling for Ange. I said I think he'd be the man for the job. I liked him, what I'd seen of him. I thought he'd be great. It just hasn't worked out. They've had injuries. It's not, and whatever. But yeah, it's been a poor season. We have to be truthful, and it's all reliant now, really, on winning this competition, which I think they should win. I mean, I'm not being disrespectful. I look at the teams that are in it, and it's a team full of quite second-rate teams, really. Teams that are fifth, sixth in the Dutch league or wherever they are, or the best team probably is the German team. Eintracht Frankfurt. I think they're probably fourth or whatever in their league, but they're not Bayern Munich. They're not by Leverkusen. They're okay. So, and Tottenham, when everybody's fit, it's a competition they should win. So if they can win that, I think it'll hide a multitude of sins this year, because it has been a really disappointing season for Tottenham.
Harry Redknapp was absolutely bang on there. If we do win the Europa League, it will hide a multitude of sins. Very similar almost to Pochettino with that run to the Champions League final, because there was a lot to paper over the cracks there. If Ange was to win the Europa League, are we brave enough to do what Man United should have done with Ten Hag and go, thank you, see you later? Or do you go again with him?
I would personally, although I've sat here and sung his praises and want to keep him, I think it'd be done, leave on a high. You've won us something, great, thank you very much.
Your
Move
reputation's intact,
Yeah.
and you've helped us.
Move on.
So?
Yeah, I don't think he is. So I think it's a bit of a silly question, but the thing is, it's a bigger achievement than the FA Cup. I love the FA Cup, it's a historic trophy, but for Daniel Levy, it's bigger, because it's not just the trophy, it's getting into the Champions League and the finances that will come with it. If we're in the if we're in the Champions League,
that would be the most
nuts, isn't it? Like,
crazy.
Finish 14th and we're in the Champions League.
Banter.
It's just like, it's a joke. It's like us turning up to the Super League. Like, how did you get in here? It's like, we back doors open. But
It's just, but that's Spurs all the time.
I feel like that would give him time. There is also a world I see where Ange is still the manager next season if we lose it. I could imagine Levy being like, no, you have had the injury troubles, I'm going to back you, but if you're not going to, we are going to get rid of you. Because it's really hard to believe all these like insiders who say like, oh, they've been talking to, apparently we were talking to Allegri at one stage. It is balmy what is possibly going on. And I don't think Levy knows what is going on, because I think he has run out of ideas, as we've said for the last hour. But I mean, it would be good to win it. Like, it would be unbelievable to win it in a season where Newcastle have stopped the drought. If we could go one step further and end our drought with that historic trophy, how much that trophy means to us. Arsenal have never won a European trophy. We've won 2.
Yeah.
We've made that 3.
And the Champions League space, as you mentioned there, Sonny, like, it would just change everything going into next season. All of a sudden, the trophy duck's gone. Then you're in the Champions League, finances, the people that want to come there, all of a sudden tells like, actually, I do want to stay here and I'm going to be good now. There's so many benefits. But my issue is trusting this manager to get us there, because it is those games, those knockout games, they take man management. And as we reflect after Newcastle, beating Liverpool, being the underdogs, watching Eddie Howe and his number 2 on the sidelines, they were the 12th man. Our manager stands there like that. Win or lose. Like, how am I supposed to give him the trust to try and do that? Because if I'm Daniel Levy, I'm looking at, this is mine. He keeps coming back to the roulette table, Daniel, and he always finds another tenner and goes, let's go again. And he's got another one now. And it's just like, what does he do?
I think that's the thing. It's a madness, like we've all kind of spoke about, how quick he was to get rid of other managers. And again, I purely go back to the point that he just doesn't want it to be another failure, to the point
exactly
why he hasn't got rid of it.
Saving face.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. And it will be interesting to see, God forbid we do win, because that would be amazing in the Europa League, and get that Champions League spot and be like, wow, it's been a whirlwind of a season. But like you said earlier, it would properly be papering over the cracks from that kind of season that we had with Pochettino, where we went all the way into the final of Champions League. But our Premier League run was so bad. I'm putting all my hopes, I think we all are.
So bad, but we still managed to get European football there, yeah?
Yeah,
and
true.
that's what bad was for us at the time. It wasn't the Champions League space. But, you know, at the end of the day, we've still got to get past the next opponents, and Eintracht Frankfurt, who, you know, are definitely weakened since Manchester City took their best player, so that we can thank Manchester City for that. But still, a team that scare me because of the way that they break.
I mean, they've got Ekatike up front from a former PSG player. He's really good. Mario Götze, obviously World Cup winner, World Cup goal scorer in the final. They're tricky. Those German teams will go at you. And I went to that stadium during the Euros where England played. It's a cauldron. It's a really good atmosphere, proper good bowl. And the fact that we've got the first game at Tottenham and then we have to go to there, I don't like that. I like it being where you've got to bring it back. Because I feel like that's where we can be a bit stronger. We've just got to... Because the thing is, everyone's saying, like, all the eggs in the Europa League basket, but we can't just lose games because all the heads are going to drop, you know. And I will say one thing about Ange, and, you know, people are like Ange out in the sense of a couple of levels. Everyone's like either aggressive Ange out or, I guess it's Ange out, which is sort of where I am. But no one is chanting Ange out in the stadium. They're still chanting Levy out. This Levy protest. So we all know that's the issue. I just still think Ange is the wrong place, the wrong time. Maybe in a couple of years it could have worked under a different ownership. But
I don't think it ever works in the Premier League, unfortunately, for that what he wants to do. I think at Celtic, of course, you can be the dominant force, and you know people are going to come to you, and you're the dominant force in the game, and you've got the better players. There's a massive gap between those top teams in Scotland and the rest of the league. This is the tightest Premier League I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, to the point now, it's almost like a closed door with the teams from the Championship coming up, going straight back down. So it's going to get worse and worse. And the other teams, Crystal Palace are in front of us. We gave them their first win.
Yeah. But they're
and you look at some of their players in their team, and you think, I love them, I love him. You know, there's a few.
They've also got a top manager who won the Europa League for Eintracht Frankfurt. So it was a risk. We all knew it was going to be a risk, Ange Postecoglou, because I think he's the second oldest manager in the Premier League after David Moyes, and we all wanted it to work.
I did. I backed him for a long time,
but it hasn't worked. And I don't think it will work because you just can't play like that. You've got to sometimes, take the ball to the corner. Even Newcastle did that in the cup final. Take it to the corner. Play it a bit like some of the passing out from the back we do and the mistakes, and it's not going to get easier and better because we have been found out. I think we have been found out. Even like the teams in and around us and below us have found us out. Leicester, Ipswich, Palace, as you say. God, the list goes on.
I don't want this to be an unenjoyable watch for the viewers out there, but they'll be in a similar position to us in this, the frustration. And my thing is that you mentioned about wanting to go right for Ange, and I did. And we had that we're loving Ange ball instead moments and all that, which was obviously quite premature, but it was just the reaction to us feeling so drab under Conte. But the thing with Conte, at least he'd energise the fans. You'd see him on the sidelines. He had a togetherness of that team until the end when he felt like, these guys ain't playing for me. And I'm trying to dig them out and no one's got my back. So he went, right, you're all going, you're all getting it. Yeah. I just look at that team now and just think, who and what are they playing for? Because the manager doesn't seem to have a relationship with them the way I'd see. Even if you go back to when Gareth Bale scored that goal against West Ham, he ran over to AVB. Apparently when AVB left, there were staff members crying. Like, that's the kind of energy that he had.
Bale named his child sort of like the initials at AVB or something. So there must be,
there must have been something there. You look at the way Poch at definitely the start and into the middle. At the end, it did kind of go a little bit more sour. But there was an energy. There was like a family unit there. I don't see that with Spurs. I watched Newcastle on Sunday. I hark back to them because Eddie Howe took them from relegation places to Champions League space and winning a trophy in a couple of years. And they had the injury worries.
And he's been questioned this year.
Yeah, and he's been questioned. But the telling difference is that energy that he has with the players, I don't see in our manager.
I mean, it would have been funny if, like this year, we're apparently getting the 5th place for Champions League.
Yeah.
That could have been us last year because there was the chance of that happening.
Yeah.
But I think some teams didn't end up going further in the Europa League and Conference and all stuff like that. But like, if that had happened, then we could have been looking at a whole different thing. I just think like this squad, and I'm going to now end probably with a positive note. This is a good squad. This is a great squad. The potential there's frightening. The Bergwals, Grays, Odebear. They've all got the minerals and the facilities to be good players. Even Solanke, I still think he's one of the best strikers in the Premier League. But it has to, you have to blame the manager. The manager is sending them out there. He's, hopefully doing a rallying cry. Because how many times have we come out at half-time being 1-0 up, 2-0 up, 1-1, whatever, and we concede straight away, or we, let it go, or let a game slip? What is he saying? What is he doing? How is he motivating the players? He doesn't take the training sessions apparently either. So there's a big disconnect, and apparently he's not really he sit in his office. So there's no Poch was out there on the training ground, Conte was out there on the training ground, Mourinho was out there.
Let me tell you something about Poch. Poch watched training so thoroughly, he used to record it, and if he saw something on there that he didn't like or he wanted to get to the bottom of, he'd pull staff members and go, "What was you talking to Danny Rose over there about? What was the conversations? Is he okay?"
Yeah.
That's how much of an eagle eye he had on the team, even from terms of their energy, how they're feeling, and stuff like that, to keep that mentality of being a togetherness in the unit. And that's at the moment. I feel sorry for Sonny, because he's obviously the last from the ship, so to speak, and he's there people are saying he's lost it, he's past it, and you look at Salah, the season he's having for Liverpool.
He's revived.
Exactly. That's a manager.
It's just because he hasn't been managed very well. And I know we say that, but he typically hasn't. You see Salah, he's allowed to play more forward, doesn't have to track back. With Sonny, he has to play in that position going forward and coming back, tracking back. And he's not able to do that at his age.
You don't suit Ange. Ange wants a winger who's high and wide. Son wants to cut in all the time.
Yeah.
It's not.
We know Son's track record of trying to be like a wing back. It doesn't work. Chelsea semi-final, no good at all.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with Son, you look at all of these best goals, as you said, cutting inside or getting behind players. There's no room to run into. The way that the Ange ball set up, I was watching it when we was playing AZ Alkmaar the other week. So far forward, that high line, it condenses the play literally into just outside the opponent's box. You've got that much space, and you're just like, right, where's Maddison supposed to thread a pass? Where's Son supposed to get in any room? No wonder they just go side to side and just.
That was in the Fulham game though. There's a still of obviously Odebear gave away the ball.
Yeah,
I think they showed it on Match of the Day, and he's there and he's got no options because Son's on the left, Solanke's offside jogging back. The old Son would have gone there, he would have looped round, done a looping run, kept onside, and he just stays on that left-hand side. So then Odebear gives it away because he's surrounded by three people. And that comes from the manager. That's tactics to me.
And that's the thing as well. Where our inverted wing-backs are coming across it, again, it moves the likes of Sonny, who wants to play it wide and cut him. They can't do it because they're just running into each other. And it isn't working.
And also the thing is as well, where Conte got a lot out of those full-backs, we're not getting anything out of Pedro Porro's attacking numbers have gone down. Jed Spencer's looked good defensively, but he's only got one goal and maybe an assist. And then Destiny Udogie hasn't looked good either. So you're not getting the best out of those inverted wing backs anyway. You're not overloading the midfield. So what's the point?
Again, as you mentioned, the squad for me. A manager can come in with his squad and go either with a 4 at the back or a 5. Because if you went with a 5, Udogie and Porro all of a sudden look. Okay, that's their positions. Porro's not a right back. He can't defend. No. I'd actually say that Emerson Royale was a better defender than Porro.
I'm not sure.
No, as a defender.
Yeah.
From actually defending, if it was to go, right, I'm a right back or a right wing back, Porro's a much better football player. But his positioning for things, that his inability to see someone on the shoulder, and again, it comes from the tactics and the manager. And the other thing is as well, speaking to Alan Pardew, of course, as a Premier League manager, your defenders' numbers of running should be the least. It shouldn't be the most. And ours are obviously going to be the most with the way that they're having to run. And it's so difficult to defend running back towards your goal rather than sitting and waiting.
100%. Turn and face, isn't it?
You don't have to have played the game at the highest level to know.
And I haven't. So and also look at Mickey van der Ven. Mickey van der Ven has got a skill that not many people have. He is so fast. But when you're telling him to keep run, he's going to get injured.
Yeah.
You want him to use that as a last resort. And, the fact of the matter was, on Monday Night Football, Russell Martin, the Southampton manager, had the audacity to call out our mistakes and passing out from the back. And I've watched that Southampton side, and we beat them somehow 5-0. So it's when you can just... And the problem is, we live in a world where Pep Guardiola football is what everyone wants to do. But sometimes you need to learn what you've got and sort of, Ange has tried to change the wheels slightly with the inverted and the high line, but it's all too much and it doesn't work because we say about the defence, so our midfield is shocking as well.
Yeah.
We get bypassed all the time. They should be shielding that defence. And no wonder we're caught out all the time and we, as you say, turning and running in the opposite direction. It's just not a good way to defend.
There's so much space in that midfield. It's
100%.
absolutely mental. And the thing is as well, when you talk about Mickey van der Ven, the biggest thing for me at the weekend was the fact that he was on the bench, but he never came on. And you saw Romero come off, and that's when it all kind of went a bit pear-shaped. But there must be something going on with...
Oh, he's saving it for Argentina. Make sure Argentina, because before every international game, we lose.
True.
Yeah.
But, oh, go on, guys, go and have a great time away. Because that's where they probably have the most fun.
And he was actually smiling in his pictures as well today, I saw, when he was on international duty,
Again,
so-
because that's the harmony of a group. Like, there's a reason those lads have taken a while to come back from injury. Why would you want to go back into that? As a player, you're thinking, well, we got the ice bath, we got the sauna, we got the games
They all
room.
brought him back from injury, didn't he?
Yeah.
He thanked Argentina. There was no thanks for our medical staff because they got a poor track record, probably.
Yeah, but he's like, I know I'm playing for Argentina, I'm going to get myself fit. So, I don't know. You're looking at all of that. If we go out to Frankfurt, what are we going to do? Just sack him after that? When do you sack him?
That's the thing. I think it's like a really weird catch-22 moment in terms of you sack him, we get Ryan Mason in. We don't sack him, we're rubbish to the end of the season, we've got nothing to play for. It's kind of like, I don't really know what the right answer is, to be honest with you. And that sounds like I'm sitting on the fence, but
No, it's
I
not.
don't know what
I
it is.
completely understand it because we've seen it. And we're so bored of seeing it again. Like, for me, you know, I'm sure he's a lovely fella. I don't think, like, how's Ryan Mason still there?
Under all these managers as well.
Yeah.
He's not a good. He's not going to be a good coach. It's a shame because I think he's a great human being. But I said to Hollie before, there's footage of him in the training saying, "Get to the byline and don't look up when you cross." Like what you meant to? No wonder Brennan Johnson can't. You know, he couldn't. You know. Couldn't cross the road.
I'm sure Ryan is a great coach, but I'm sure perhaps in another setting or something. Again, sometimes just in general in life, you need, like you said, you don't want to go back to Poch, for example. You just need to like reset
Can't
everything.
do a third time, can we?
Yeah.
You know, if we're interiming, it's got to be someone. You know, I mean, I find funny the Harry Redknapp one, but someone like that. You know, like how we did sort of Tim Sherwood or like an external body just to hold the ship, and then
You'd even give Ledley a go.
yeah.
So let us get out there, mate. Go on.
I just think, and then what he should do, Levy, is announce the manager during the end of the season.
Absolutely.
Because then the fan base go, oh, and also that's clever because then they'll go, people are going to now renew their season tickets.
Oh, they're already asking.
They're going to go into the shop. I mean, the fact that this is the big joke about the season tickets. He's froze them, isn't he? But now you have to buy a £40 a year membership, one Hotspur. You can't just send it to people with the account. They're frozen it. So I think even Jim Ratcliffe have conversations about these things.
Well, yeah. Well, Jim could only dream of running his club like Daniel Levy at the moment, and perhaps that's where he's getting a few ideas. He probably sat down and had a couple of
You said you were putting the prices up.
Yeah, they're probably discussing it. Look, the Europa League is our saving grace, so to speak. It's the only thing we've got to look forward to, but even going into it, I'm just not confident, and it's not the players. And I know the players have had some terrible mistakes this season, and we've always argued: is it the manager? Is it the players? Is it the culture of the club? There's enough talent in that Spurs squad to go and win the Europa League.
100%.
We have a better squad, in my opinion, than Manchester United, who are probably the other favourite. All we have to do, it sounds very simple, is go and win 5 games. But we can't do that in the Premier League, can we?
Can't string it together. Well, even Lazio, I think they lost 5-0 at the weekend to Bologna, and they topped the league group. Galatasaray looked like one of the favourites. They got kicked out by AZ Alkmaar. So I said that it was more winnable than the Carabao Cup. And we had to face City, United and Liverpool, and then Newcastle if we got through to that, or Arsenal. So it's on paper, it's simple. But Tottenham aren't simple. If we could play football on paper, I'd do it every week, but it's shocking.
Do you think we go through the next round?
I'm going to say yes because I want to be optimistic. I want to be positive. And again, the only thing I can say that we will do it is the fact that we've been so poor in the Prem. And I feel like those senior players want to get that trophy because we were so good in that previous game against AZ that it just needs to come
I
together.
don't think we were
for this one.
so good. I think we was okay.
We were okay, but it was. I suppose
that's
it's
how
like a breath.
bad it is,
That
isn't
is
it?
how
Yeah.
bad it is. It was a breath of fresh air because things were clicking, and we always go back to that one goal instance where it all clicked from the back and went through, and that's what I want to see more of. And I just hope that.
But that only happened when they didn't have to do a low block on us because they had to come at us.
True.
So there was space. So anyone, like you said, my worry is going over to their place, because I remember seeing it. I'll never forget it. I was up here, talkSPORT, supposed to be doing a Spurs special on talkSPORT 2, and it was that game where we lost in the Europa Conference. You remember?
Oh yeah, well, in a smaller.
Yeah, and we got knocked out. We got. It was just embarrassing, and I can just sense it now. We get like 1-0 at home or something.
Dynamo's the crib.
That's it. It was Dynamo.
Yeah.
And it was embarrassing. Like even Hugo afterwards come out and was embarrassed. It was just, it's just set up for a really Spursy finish, and I just don't want it to be the case. Especially now with Newcastle winning at the weekend, I'm so happy for them. But at the same time, I was like, this is even more pressure on us now.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they've ended their trophy drought, and what was it, 70 years or 55, depending on which trophy you count, 70 if you count the FA Cup. But we can't do that. We haven't got the facilities to do that at the moment. We haven't got anyone grabbing the ball by the horns and going like, right, fight, grit, because we can turn it on. There was a bit more fight and grit in that AZ Alkmaar game, I will say that. But if Van der Ven or Romero doesn't play or Solanke doesn't play, you're removing pieces of the jigsaw and it becomes even tougher. So I think we'll go through if we do have those players. Like, we look so much better with both them playing. But it depends how they're managed, because I still think that Van der Ven should have played the other day, because we need to get the match fit. There's a difference between match fitness and fitness. So I don't know. And then Solanke, he's not really firing yet, and I don't think he's fit, but then he's been called up to England somehow. And
we have to hope that they will come back uninjured from international break.
That's
every
a
time
whole
someone
other
goes
thing.
down, there's going to be a clip on Twitter
Oh,
going,
God.
I know, especially someone like Romero, because he'll give 100%, 110% for Argentina.
Exactly.
He'll leave his body on the line. Oh, God, the life and...
I haven't been positive on this show for about 4 weeks now, so it's not good, is it?
I'm trying to hold it together, but it is getting to the point, like you say, it's just so annoying that it's come to this point, because at the start of the season we were kind of like, this is great, let's go, and it's just slowly gone down and more downhill, and it's like, if we can get this over the line, fabulous. But like you guys said, those certain players have to be playing.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That's all we got time for this week on Inside Spurs. Thank you very much for Abby for having me. Remember, next time we're on the show, please don't wear any kind of red, because we don't do that when you're Spurs fans. From us and the team here at Inside Spurs, thank you very much. Come on, you Spurs. See you next time.